Yeah. I'll start it. Chip, you want to move over to Discord chat?
Jesse with 27.8. 5. 10th. Goes to the top of it. Over 125.6. It's not going faster. It's going faster. Rick's going fastest by 1/10 and a half. Oh, so close. $25.6 in this lobby. 25.634. Luke. Good stuff. Top three were within 8 100ths in my lobby. I was going to get 5. Yeah. Do we want to try commentary, gents? Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you guys after the race. Yep. So just make sure that if there's anyone who's not going to cross the finish line by the time the 180-second timer expires, that you're on them so that you can see the delta to the car ahead or behind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Chat after. Yep.
All right, welcome all to race 1 of VPRL's Oktoberfest of Speed, Lobby 3. This series is a team-based series, teams of 3, placed across 3 lobbies. Total cumulative race time of the 3 team members is what makes up our standings at the end of the race. Points are awarded by placement, bonus point for pole position across all 3 lobbies, and fastest lap across all 3 lobbies. As you saw during qualifying, this is going to be a quick one. Top 3 within about 9/100ths of a second, and I do believe that we had the fastest lap across all 3 lobbies here in Lobby 3. with VOOC 2002 hitting that 25.6. Just waiting for our drivers to get ready here, and we will get set to start this one. Let's see how many I've got checked in and ready to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Waiting on one more. And 14. Now we're starting, and then we'll get going. The race is a 40-minute endurance race. All 3 tire compounds are required, so we will see a few tire changes during the race. False starts are on, so hopefully we have nobody jump the lights here. And here we go. Everybody's off the line. Loop comes across. And we're down to turn 1. Little bumping there. We got one off with some damage. Let me just check and make sure we've got anybody else with damage. Yes, we do. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is unfortunately a red flag. Alright, we've got drivers starting to exit out here now. Just waiting on a couple more, and then we will set the grid to restart. So the red flag rule in this league is if there is a incident involving contact where 2 or more cars take damage in the first sector of lap 1, we red flag the race. There is only one red flag, so this next start will be the final start that we'll do for this race. Just make sure we can get everybody off track here so I can reset the lobby. Alright. Change event settings. Practice endurance race. And we'll wait for everybody to get checked back in here so I can set the grid. Alright, looks like we have the grid all reset there now that everybody's checked in. And here we go. One, two, three. And we're going to give this one another go. And everyone's off the line. Another good start from Vuk. He covers off Wid in second. Coming down to turn one. And that's better. So out of the gate, we have GTS Vuk still in first place. Wids kept his second place. Itkinen in third. Nuke in fourth. Blackstig in fifth. RWB's Nav in sixth. Tommy Turismo in seventh. Jesse Salas in eighth. Quietbird in ninth. MTB in 10th. VPRL's Chef in 11th, RWB Eidolon in 12th, Eric in 13th, and Monkey Mafia's Osmo in 13th, just passing Eric there now. Let's go back up to the head of the battle here. As Vuk is starting to pull out a bit of a lead on Wid. And we already have our first pit stop with S7R's Nuke in, getting rid of those hards right away. Really close between our top three here. Then a bit of a gap back to the rest of the pack with Blackstig at the head of that. A little group of cars here, 4th through 8th. Very close here between 4th and 5th. So there we've got Nuke, who's out on the mediums now after doing the mandatory one lap on hards. As I said, the drivers have to use all 3 tire compounds during this race. There is no minimum number of laps that they have to run. They just have to satisfy GT7 that they have run all 3, and that satisfies the league. So in first place, we've still got Vuk. He's representing Speedhouse Racing, which came out of the VR2 Racing League. Next, we've got Wid, who is repping Sector 7 Racing. We've got Itkinen, who is here repping Auto Racing Connected, ARC, I believe. Yes. Black Stig, Midwest Esports. RWB Racing's Nav is representing GT Champions. Quiet Bird, representing IORT. MTB is with Gear Bangers Racing League, newly formed. We've got Monkey Mafia Esports, represented by MMR Asmo. Victory Pace Racing, represented by Chef. We've got Epilepsy Awareness, which is a second team entered by Monkey Mafia, represented by Eric. We've got Greasy Sam Squatch YouTube Racing, represented by S7R's Nuke. Victory Pace Racing Team. Sorry, the last one was Victory Pace Racing League. This is Victory Pace Racing Team, represented by Jesse Salas. The Aston Gang, represented by Tommy Turismo. And we've got RWB Racing, represented by RWB Eidolon. So lots of great teams and leagues with some representation in here across the 3 lobbies. And of course, they all want to be the ones to come out on top in a team versus team battle. So Vuk's still hanging on to that lead, running the medium tires out of the gate. See what kind of tire differential we have as we go down through the order here. So Wid is on mediums as well. He's fallen back just over a second and a half. Itkinen also on the mediums. And we have RWB's Nav into the pits, getting rid of those hards. Black Stig also on the hards. He's not pitted yet, so he's run those for a few laps, I guess. He's part of his strategy. Quiet Bird on the softs. MTB on the mediums as well. Oh, and commentator's curse takes out Eric, who is also running the softs, and he's got a bit of damage there. Just waiting for cars to go by before he rejoins the track. Love to see it. We've got VPR's Chef on the mediums as well, and Eidolon on the softs. So a few different strategies here already. We got a couple people that took the hards early and pitted. We got a couple guys on the hards and running them for 5 laps now. A few guys who chose to start on the softs, but the majority seem to have gone with the mediums right off the bat. So Vuk's still out in front here with 7 minutes gone in this one. And he's built himself a pretty healthy lead here. And he takes fastest lap of the race so far to boot. We've got Wid back in second, who's also managed to open up a gap of a second and a half back to Itkinen. So none of these guys are in the slipstream here now. We got Black Stig in the pits now, getting rid of those hards. So he did 5 laps on those before he decided to change it over. Now from Itkinen back, we got a bit of a bigger gap. These guys have really separated themselves from the rest of the group. We got Quiet Bird in 4th. He's 8 seconds back from Itkinen, and then 11 and a bit back from the lead. Got MTB in 5th, who's about 2 seconds back of Quiet Bird, and then another big gap of about 12 seconds back to Nuke, Blackstig, and Nav, all of whom have done pit stops. We got Jesse here on softs, doesn't look like he's stopped yet. Tommy on mediums, doesn't look like he's stopped yet. Asmo on mediums as well. Chef on mediums. RWB's Eidolon on softs, he definitely hasn't stopped yet. Oh, and we've got Eric into the wall again there. He's on softs and he's carrying a bit of damage to his front aero and front suspension as well on both sides. We'll go back to our leader here. So still hovering right around a 1.5-second gap between he and Wid. Still very close between these top 3, even though they're separated by about 3 seconds now. They're still just a mistake away from a lead change here. Although generally with racers of this caliber, the mistakes are few and far between, so we'll see how strategy plays into this a little bit later. So yeah, just over 3 seconds, 3.4 seconds in between the top 3, and then we come back to our second group here. 4th and 5th, still quite close together, and then we have our folks who've already taken their first pit stop. And they're about 27 seconds back from the leader here, this group. But we've got 4 of them, all right on top of one another here. Got some folks in the slipstream coming up through the tunnel here. Blackstig is right on Nuke's gearbox. We'll see if he tries to make a move down at the bottom of the hill. He does not. Tries to get that good exit. And he should have a pretty good run here coming out of the down across the start-finish straight. Trying to stay in that slipstream behind Nuke. And we'll see if he makes a move down into turn 1. Yes, he moves over to the inside. And nicely done. Clean overtake by Blackstig on Sector 7's Nuke. We got Nav and Jesse right behind them. Both of them within a second of that battle. And then not too far down the road, just over 2 seconds, we got Quiet Bird, Tommy Turismo, and MMR's Asmo. And Quiet Bird had a little incident there by the looks of it. IORT, now that it comes back into my mind, is Infinite Octane Racing Team. It was right at the tip of my tongue earlier. There it is now. They're sporting the very plaid livery. And we got MMR's Asmo right behind them. So good little battle there, 9th through 11th. And then back another 12 seconds, we've got VPR's Chef with RWB Eidolon not far behind him. And then we've got Eric down in 14th. He's just about a minute and a half behind the leaders, so he has, he's already been lapped by the top 3. He's got himself some clear track here now though, so hopefully he can put in some good clean laps and make up some of that ground. Again, he's representing Epilepsy Awareness Racing, who are going to be putting on a charity race in the not too distant future, raising awareness and hopefully some funds to support research into epilepsy. And nothing changed in the top 3. Wood has managed to close that gap a little bit, couple of tenths. He's got it down to 1.3 seconds now. And the gap back to Ipkinen has opened up a little bit, just over 2.5 seconds back to third place here. Tire wear between the top 3 is pretty near even. Back and forth, we got MTB all on his own here. He's got 14 seconds ahead, 9 seconds back, and he's putting in some good solid laps here on those mediums. He's yet to pit. He's representing the newly formed Gear Bangers Racing League. Look forward to see what they bring to the GT7 Sim Racing League community once they get up and fully running. And just down the road, we've got Black Stig here in 5th from Midwest Esports, and he's got Greasy Sasquatch YouTube Racing's Nuke right on his gearbox, and RWB's Nav not far behind. So again, good little battle here from 5th down through 8th. Jesse's sitting about 2 seconds back of that group, but still pretty close. And Tommy Turismo's closed the gap a bit to Jesse, only 2 seconds back. Quiet Bird another 4 seconds down the road there. Asmo, 1.5 seconds. And then we've got Chef, Eidolon, and Eric. Let's go back up to our leader. Still maintaining that gap, closing it bit by bit, it seems, here over the last couple laps. It went from 1.8 to 1.6, now we're down to 1.2. So Wid seems to be reeling in Vuk a little bit, or at least not letting him get away. And then he is stretching that gap back to Itkinen just a little bit. He's up over 3 seconds now, clear of third place. And again, that gap from 3rd back to 4th is pretty healthy. These guys are the medium runners. Most of these guys, well, MTB hasn't pitted. And as we can see, those mediums are starting to struggle just a little bit. Oh, and MTB has a spin. And he gets off track. Oh, nicely done. Allows traffic through. Oh! That was a close one. So let's go back up here, 4th place. So Black Stig, I believe he was one of our first guys to pit on the hards onto the mediums. So his mediums are still looking pretty good there. Nuke pitted for sure onto the mediums off the hards, as did our WB's Nav. And Jesse has run those softs. They've probably just about seen the end of their time here. I suspect we'll see Jesse coming into the pits here soon. And there we go. He's into the pits to get rid of those softs. That allows Tommy and MTV through, as well as Quiet Bird. So that little group goes through as Jesse changes tires. And we've got Eidolon still on softs, and looks like he's going to take him for another lap. Boy, there's not much left on those. I suspect this will be his last lap on those ones. MMR Asmo has made the switch on to hards. We'll see how many laps he decides to do with those. He's done, how many now? 1, 2, looks like 3 laps on them now so far. Eric on the hards as well. He pitted a couple laps ago. And back up to our leader here. And he crosses the line 1:26.8. That gap back to 2nd place, still around 1.2 seconds. So that's staying pretty consistent here the last few laps. kind of rubber banding back and forth as they hit the stronger parts of the track for each individual driver here. And we see Wood really closing that gap here now. He's got it down under a second. About 3/4 of a second, 7/10 is where we start to see the effect of the slipstream in Gran Turismo 7. So he's not far off that now. And we may see him down by the end of the straight, or at least on the start-finish straight in a place where he could look at making a move into turn 1. And Itkinen's fallen back about 4 seconds here. I think we'll just stick with these lead 2 here for a minute. See if we get Wid at trying anything down towards turn 1. He's fallen back another 1/10 or so here now. Just over 8/10, so he's probably a little far back to try anything into turn 1 here right now. These guys, as you can see by their lap times, are very consistent with the lap times they're putting down. Even as the tires wear, we just saw that last lap time from Wid within 2/100ths of his fastest lap of the race. So some really impressive consistency from these lead couple drivers here. And we've got Itkinen here. He's keeping it in the low 127s other than a little glitch there last lap. And he finds himself almost 6 seconds back at the leader and 5 seconds back at second place. And Black Stig here, he's got a few laps on those mediums now, so starting to see a little bit of wear. But as we can see by that delta, his laps are nice and consistent as well, low to mid 27s. S7R's Nuke is only 2 and a bit seconds behind him, and he's got 2.5 seconds clear back to RWB Nav. So that little battle we had in the mid-pack has stretched itself out a little bit as we get down into this race, but they're still obviously all within sight of one another, so they all have something to chase. RWB Nav, he has just under 4 seconds back to Tommy Turismo. MTB back in 8th, another 6 seconds, and he's got Quiet Bird closing in on him, just over a second, the gap back to between 8th and 9th there. And then we've got 9 seconds back to 10th place, VPR's Jesse Salas. And VPRL's Chef, about 5 seconds behind him, who we see just lapping the driver representing Epilepsy Awareness Racing, Eric. Let's go back to our lead battle here. So Wid seems to close the gap coming through this sector here, so he's got it down under 6/10 here. We'll see if he can keep that up as we go through the final couple turns here down onto the start-finish straight. And maybe have a go into turn 1. We've got some lap traffic coming up ahead here. Hopefully that doesn't create any issues for them. They should be able to get cleanly past them, hopefully before turn 1. And no, maybe not. Looks like RWB's Eidolon is, he's got enough of a gap there to the leaders that he's going to be able to take that turn no problem. And again, that gap down to just under half a second now. So really, really close racing between these top two. Moving back down through the order. Itkinen is down almost 6 seconds here to our second place driver, Wids. And then a huge gap, 25 seconds back to fourth place with Midwest Esports, Black Stig, and S7R's Nuke, representing Greasy Sam Squatch, YouTube Racing. RWB's Nav here in the GT Champions liveried Porsche. He's just under 3 seconds back of Nuke, and he's got a 4-second gap back to the Aston Gang's Tommy Turismo. Aston Gang running that simple but very nice livery with their team symbol there, and just looks like almost a black, maybe a bit of purple in there. Very nice. We got MTB with gear bangers, Quiet Bird in that plaid clad Porsche for Infinite Octane. And we've got Jesse back here in 10th place in that VPRL Porsche. And he's got his mascot on the back window there, Slowpoke Rodriguez. Not indicative of his pace, but likes to have a little fun with that. And we got VPR's Chef representing this league, VPRL, in that red Porsche. Monkey Mafia's Asmo, RWB's Eidolon, and then we've got Eric back in 14th here, just being overtaken by our leaders again. Great job staying out of the way there, not getting involved in that. Love to see it. And we're still sitting right around 4/10 here between the two leaders. And Eric goes a little wide there, maybe missed his braking point a little bit. Just missed taking out our second place driver, Wid. Thankfully, nothing there. And we got Vuk, our leader, into the pits. So Wid is got some clean air now on some very worn mediums. Let's see if he can make up some time on our leader. And maybe take over that first place once he finishes his pit stop. So Vuk has switched on to the hards here. Suspect this will be a pretty quick run on those. Most of the guys have been doing 5 laps or fewer on the hards. We've got Itkin in here, 5 seconds back of Vuk. He's pitted as well. He put on softs. And we got a yellow flag up ahead here. Try and see where that is. We got Eric just off to the side there, doing well to stay out of the way of our cars on track. And Black Stig in 4th place. He's 10 seconds back of Itkinen. They've both had 1 stop now, but obviously a tire differential there. So I suspect Itkinen on those new softs will have a definite pace advantage over Black Stig once he gets those warmed up. 4 seconds back to Greasy Sam Squanch, S7R Nuke. RWB's Nav has closed the gap a little bit. He's got that down to a second between he and Nuke. And then Quiet Bird's about 14 seconds down the road, and he's still running those mediums. Looks like he'll probably have a few laps of life left in those. We're over the halfway point now. Again, this is a 40-minute endurance race. And we've got Wid into the pits. And he's got the hards on. And he comes out still in first. And Vuk is back in, getting rid of those hards. Onto the softs, and I suspect he will try and take those right to the end. And he comes out in 4th place, having finished both of his mandatory pit stops and having used all 3 mandatory compounds of tires. So some interesting strategy here. We'll see what happens. We'll see how far Wid decides to take these hards. If he decides to do more than the mandatory 1 lap, just to give himself a little bit more tire life on those softs at the end, or if he follows the same strategy as Vuk and pits after a lap. So we can see Itkinen did make some ground on Wid during that series of pit stops. Both of these guys have 1 pit stop left. So Itkinen, he cut that gap in about half. He was about 6 seconds back, and now he's got it down under 3. But obviously there's a tire differential there that's contributing to that, with Itkinen on the softs and Wood on the hards. And there we have it. Wood is in to get rid of those hards after 1 lap. And he'll be putting on the softs to complete his series of pit stops. And Blackstig is in as well, getting rid of those mediums. So Vuk goes through, and he should, let's see, as the other two come out of the pits. So Itkinen's out in front, and Wid has managed to undercut, or overcut, I guess in this case, Vuk. So he took that 4/10 deficit and turned it into a 4/10 advantage in that series of pit stops. Nice to see some different strategies coming into play here, and we'll see how that works out for both of them. As we wind this one down, we've got just over 10 minutes left here, and you can see already the difference in tire wear between those two drivers with a lap of difference. So those softs are going to wear pretty quickly, and we'll see how they last into the last 10 minutes of this race. So Itkinen out in the lead by 13 seconds, and again, he's got 1 pit stop left to make. Suspect he's going to take these softs as far as they will go, and then on to the hards. And that strategy will ensure that he's not left with a set of completely worn out softs at the end of this race. He'll have a set of newish hards depending when he decides to pit. So we'll see how that stacks up to what will likely be some pretty worn softs on the two guys in second and third. So back to 4th place, we've got a 16-second gap for Blackstig. S7R's Nuke, representing Greasy Sam Squatch YouTube Racing, is about 3.5 seconds back of Blackstig. And then we've got RWB's Nav, representing GT Champions, just under 2 seconds back of Nuke. Quiet Bird, Infinite Octane, 1.5 back of Nav. And then we got 4.5 seconds back to Tommy Turismo, representing the Aston Gang. And VPR's Jesse Salassi is 1.5 back of Tommy Turismo. So keeping him honest there. MTB, so he's done his pit stop. He's on to the hards now. VPR's Chef, just 12 seconds back of him, and MMR Asmo just under 2 seconds back of him in 12th. RWB's Eidolon, 27 seconds behind Asmo. And we've got Eric, who we can't see a delta right now to the driver ahead of him, but he is a ways back at this point. He's really struggled with this mid-engine Porsche around this track. So hopefully in our next couple of rounds in that Mercedes, and trying to remember off the top of my head what the third car is. BMW Endurance Model M6 is our third round. We'll see if those suit his driving style a little better. So Itkinen's still got that 13-second lead over second and third place. Again, these guys are on a different strategy here. Itkinen's running his softs now. Hasn't run the hards yet, whereas both Vuk and Wid have finished both of their pit stops, run all 3 tires, and both of them are on the softs now. And those softs are wearing pretty quickly. So we'll see how that pans out for them in the next 8 minutes or so here. Blackstig on some fairly fresh softs. Sector 7's Nuke, same deal. RWB's Nav on some newer softs compared to the two guys ahead of him. And we got Tommy Turismo on some pretty worn softs. I suspect we'll see him do another handful of laps on these and then come in for another tire change. Jesse's closed that gap. He's got it down to under a second now. Maybe just over a second once the concertina effect on that corner is taken into account. But he appears to be closing that gap a little bit. Quiet Bird back in 9th. Big gap ahead and behind. VPR's Chef with MMR Asmo closing in on his gearbox. Just about a second between those two. As they come through the final couple corners here, that hairpin, and then the sweeping right and then left onto the start-finish straights. Just over a second here, so Asmo's probably going to be a little far back for a move into turn 1. And let's go back up to our leaders. So that gap is down to 12 seconds now from 13. As we can see, Itkinen's soft starting to wear, and he's coming across some lap traffic here. 12th place MTB. As they come into turn 1. And that gap stays at 12 seconds back to second place. MTB's moving right along there, not really holding Itkinen up too much here. I suspect he'll be making way here, not too... And we've got another car coming through here, so maybe a bit of a traffic jam happening here with some lap traffic. Looks like Eric there from Epilepsy Awareness Racing. And Itkinen still trying to get by MTB, and he's made his way around there now, but that gap is down to 11.5 seconds. So cost him a bit of time there, but of course Vuk and Wid are going to have to go through that lapse traffic as well. So Vuk has gotten by Wid here for what should be the provisional lead of the race. But there is not much to decide between these two as Wid looks around the outside coming into these final sequence of corners. And he is right on Vuk's bumper. I suspect he'll try and make a move down that start-finish straight into turn 1. Let's stick with them for a second as we've got a 1/10 gap between those two. And Wid moves to the outside. Vuk holds his ground on the inside, and they're both into the braking zone. Cleanly through turn 1. Wid tries for the old switcheroo. No luck there, so he'll stick behind Vuk for another little spell here. But a great battle between second and third place, which is our provisional first and second, probably after Itkinen does his final pit stop. That gap down to about 11 seconds now as those second and third place drivers are making up some ground on him. We can see his softs have worn out quite a bit since he put them on a few laps ago. Suspect he'll be making that change as soon as he starts to see a little bit of difference in pace. That last lap was slower by a second, but we know that he ran into some lap traffic there that likely made the lion's share of the difference in that lap time. So let's go back to our second and third place drivers here, this battle. And it looks like they're going to have to contend with some lap traffic into turn 1. Hopefully they get through that cleanly. Wid's a little bit further back this time, just about 4/10 at the start of the straight. So probably out of range of being able to make a move into turn 1, and yes he is. And Eric is right in there as these two drivers try to get past him. He is not making it easy for them. And we've got an incident here between the lap traffic, and it looks like Wid did hold off to let Vuk retain that second place given the incident with the lap traffic. Unfortunate to see, but these two made it through in mostly one piece. A little bit of damage on the front aero of Vuk's car. We'll see how that impacts him coming up this long straight here down into the hairpin, and then of course that should be gone there. It's gone now. We got light damage in this series. So these two are still battling it out for second and third. Because of that incident, Itkinen was able to open up that gap a little bit, back up to 13 seconds from what was approaching 10 and a half. So unfortunate that. But we'll see how that pans out after Itkinen's final pit stop here. So about 4/10 the gap coming into turn 1 here again. We'll stick with these two into turn 1, and then we'll take a little look down through the order, see how everybody else is doing. Down to 2/10. Is he going to have a look? No, he's just going to stick behind Luke there. And he's going to pick his spot in the next couple of minutes. We're just down to just under a minute left in this one. Just over a minute, I should say, plus runoff time. So we have a runoff time of 180 seconds back to allow folks to finish their laps if they're not on the lead lap. Alright, so we got Blackstig 15 seconds back here in 4th place. He's just overtaking some lap traffic. 13th place, RWE Eidolon. He's got a good gap, just about 6 seconds back to Greasy Sasquatch Racing's Nuke. And he's got himself a little battle on his hands with RWB's Nav representing GT Champions. Just under 3/10 here as these two come up the hill down towards the hairpin. So maybe we'll stick with them. We've got Itkinen into the pits there on those softs. Sitting on 5% fuel. So fuel may be a variable here, although the counter is down to about 20 seconds here. So this ORWB nav goes for that move into this last sector, set of corners, and just gets a little loose. Aggressive move there, almost paid off for him, but those softs just had nothing left to give. Alright, so Blackstig is the first to cross the finish line, and all those behind him will be crossing as well. And we've got Wid into the lead here, so we missed that move between first and second place as we were watching that little battle there for 5th and 6th. But here we've got Wid with 7/10 lead over Vuk and 4.5 seconds back to Itkinen. So Itkinen was able to close that gap pretty significantly, especially with all of the incidents there with lap traffic, but not going to be enough to challenge the leaders here as they come up towards the end of this one. So Vuk again about 7/10 back of Wid representing Sector 7 Racing as they come down towards the finish line. And there we go. Wid is going to take this one with about a 6/10 gap. What a battle between these two all race. Really strong finish. Unfortunate that we had that little incident with the lap traffic. And Vuk taking a little bit of damage as a result of that. But overall, very competitive racing up and down the grid. So congratulations to our race winner, Wid. And rounding out the podium, we've got GTS Vuk and Itkinen in 3rd place. Just going to get the results here before anyone leaves the lobby. There we go. And there we go. Beautiful. And that was a fantastic race to kick off our Oktoberfest of Speed. We are here Monday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the next 2 weeks for round 2 and round 3. Lobbies will be shuffled up a little bit between rounds, So if you are watching Lobby 3 next week, we'll have a few different drivers in here, likely some familiar faces back. And we will see how the standings work out based on the results of our other two lobbies. So we are going to sign off from the broadcast here now. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you next Monday night at 9 Eastern for round 2.